June 17, 1939. The crowds began to gather before dawn. It was a Saturday morning in Versailles. Outside the prison gates, a mob of thousands, men in suits, women with children, journalists with cameras, swelled into the gray streets. They weren't there to protest. They weren't there for justice. They came for blood. By 4:30 a.m., the guillotine was ready. Eugène Weidmann wasn't born a killer. Born in Frankfurt in 1908, his early life was unremarkable, but by the 1930s, he had descended into darkness. Charming, multilingual, and calculating, Weidmann became a conman, targeting wealthy tourists in France. In a matter of months in 1937, he committed a string of 6 brutal murders, luring victims with promises of business deals or jobs. Among them were Jean de Covan, a young American dancer from New York, strangled and buried in his garden. Roger Leblanc, a chauffeur shot in the back. Fritz Frommer, a fellow German and political refugee. Each killing was cold, calculated, and tied to theft. When police finally raided the villa Weidmann shared with his accomplices, they uncovered a web of lies, bloodstains, and shallow graves. His arrest was violent. He shot an officer before being subdued. The nation demanded retribution. The trial was a sensation. Weidmann's calm demeanor, piercing eyes, and bizarre confessions captivated the public. He claimed remorse, but never denied his crimes. The court had no mercy. He was sentenced to death by guillotine, the ultimate punishment under French law. And unlike today's executions behind prison walls, this one was to be public. On the night of June 16, 1939, the guillotine was discreetly assembled in front of St. Pierre Prison in Versailles. It stood 14 feet tall, made of wood and iron. Nearby cafes stayed open all night. Locals brought their children. Vendors sold wine. The execution was treated like a festival. By 4 a.m., thousands were pressed together, some standing on rooftops and balconies. Journalists positioned their cameras. One of them, a young reporter named Christopher Lee, who would later become a famous actor, was there in the crowd, bearing witness to what he would describe as a grotesque, unforgettable sight. At 4:30 a.m., the prison doors opened. Weidmann, pale and shackled, emerged between 2 guards. He was dressed neatly. He muttered a prayer, then looked out at the crowd with contempt. In seconds, it was over. The blade fell with a mechanical snap, and blood spilled onto the wooden platform. The crowd cheered. Some fainted, some clapped, some smiled. But this was no ordinary execution. It had been filmed. A hidden camera captured the entire act, one of the only actual guillotinings ever recorded on film. Photographs circulated the next day in newspapers around the world. What shocked officials wasn't the execution itself, it was the circus it had become. Women dipped handkerchiefs in Weidmann's blood as souvenirs. Drunk spectators laughed and posed for pictures beside the scaffold. Paris Match published full spreads. The press compared the crowd to spectators at a sporting event. It was theatrical cruelty, and the government was horrified. President Albert Lebrun and Justice Minister Georges Bonnet swiftly issued a ruling: no more public executions in France. From then on, executions would be carried out behind prison walls, witnessed only by officials and clergy, and thus, with one final drop of the blade, public execution in France came to an end. The guillotine itself would remain in use in France for decades, right up until 1977, when Hamida Gendoubi became the last person executed in Western Europe. But no execution would ever again be seen by the masses. Weidmann's death had been too much, not because of its cruelty, but because of how eagerly society had consumed it. It forced France to confront a deeper truth, that justice, when performed as theater, becomes something else entirely. The blade fell, and with it, an era ended.